least 40 people killed in one of the worst tragedies Switzerland has ever experienced. The victims were celebrating the new year when a fire swept through a crowded bar in a Swiss ski resort. 115 others are injured, many with severe burns.
We had like 20 friends that were inside. Some of them are still missing.
Tonight, the King has called the disaster utterly heartbreaking. We'll be live in Switzerland with the latest. Also this evening, no New Year relief for Ukraine as Russia launches another huge drone attack. The urgent need for medical supplies, including prosthetic limbs for Gaza's injured children, and a frustrating start to the...
ITV News with Romilly Weeks.
Good evening. The Swiss president has called it one of the worst disasters his country has ever seen. Around 40, mainly young people, killed in a ferocious blaze in a crowded bar as they celebrated New Year in the ski resort of Cran, Montana. Eyewitnesses describe scenes of utter panic as those trapped in the frames tried to break windows to escape. Tonight, 115 others are in hospital, many in a critical condition, with neighbouring countries offering to help treat those with severe burns. Desperate families are still waiting for the dead to be identified. Here, the King has called the disaster utterly heartbreaking and said that he and the Queen send their deepest sympathy to all those affected. From the scene, Amy Lewis reports.
Partying quickly turned to panic as they desperately tried to make their escape. The basement bar was rammed when the flames began to tear through the building. Hundreds of people were inside celebrating the new year, but dozens never made it out.
Yeah. We had like 20 friends that were inside. Some of them are still missing, and we didn't hear any news from them. Some of them are in the hospital right now, injured and in bad conditions.
I'm still in shock. I can't comprehend what happened. I feel like it's actually a nightmare, that I'm going to wake up.
Ambulances had to queue to get to the scene. Some victims were airlifted out. The local hospital's intensive care unit was soon full. Patients were sent elsewhere for specialist burns treatments. Several of the bar's customers believe this is to blame. Sparklers used in champagne bottles as seen in one of the venue's promotional videos.
A bottle of something, they come with little candles that have sparkles on it, and there was a person sitting on the shoulders of another, holding them up, and it catch fire the ceiling,
I didn't see it clearly, but it seems to me that there were waitresses with bottles of champagne with sparklers, and they were too close to the ceiling, and suddenly it caught fire.
Whatever the cause, investigators believe it was an accident rather than an attack on the Cran, Montana resort. In the heart of the Swiss Alps, it is one of the world's top skiing venues.
Priority will be given to identifying the deceased so that their bodies can be quickly returned to their families. This work may take several days, and given the international nature of the Crown Resort, we can expect there to be victims of foreign nationality. We are in close contact with the victims' families, whom we are keeping informed.
The fire has destroyed so many lives. The victims died celebrating a new year they'd never see.
Amy, it's just so shocking to think that less than 24 hours ago, the mood there was one of celebration, and it couldn't be more different now.
That's right, Romilly. It's happened just behind me at the end of this street in the bar. What's striking when you arrive is that this evening you can still smell the burning here from the fire. Just to the left here of the cordon, there's been a candlelit vigil this evening. We've seen a lot of especially young people coming, very emotional, paying their respects and laying flowers. Now, Swiss authorities have said that there are 115 people who have been injured by this. They say it will take some time to identify many of those who sadly lost their lives because of the severity of their burns. Now, back in the UK, the Foreign Office are yet to confirm if any British nationals have been affected by this. But this evening, King Charles has said that he and the Queen are deeply saddened by the events here, and they say all of those who have been affected are in their thoughts and prayers. This is one of the worst ever disasters to affect this nation.
Right, Amy in Crans-Montana in Switzerland, thank you. In other news, 2025 saw the second highest number of channel crossings by migrants ever recorded. More than 41,000 people crossed the channel in small boats last year, 9% below the peak in 2022. A Home Office spokesperson called the number shameful and said the government is taking action. A man has been charged with trespassing at the London home of the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children twice in 3 days. Derek Egan was stopped by Royal Protection officers after he climbed the fence around Kensington Palace on the 21st and the 23rd of December. And snow and ice are forecast across much of the UK over the coming days. There are amber warnings for snow in northern and eastern Scotland and yellow warnings for snow and ice in western Scotland, Wales, the Midlands, southern England and along the east coast from Norwich to Newcastle. Ukraine and Russia exchanged drone attacks overnight, ringing in 2026 with no pause in the fighting. Local media say Ukraine hit energy and oil facilities in Russia, whilst a Russian attack damaged power infrastructure in several Ukrainian regions. Both countries' leaders made New Year addresses, Volodymyr Zelensky referring to a peace deal as 90% done, but Vladimir Putin talked only of victory. Sharon Preet-Kara has the latest.
For those hoping the new year might bring about a change in this war, these scenes will feel grimly familiar. Overnight, a massive attack on Ukraine's Odessa region damaged key infrastructure, as well as a two-storey residential building. The Ukrainian Air Force said it was part of a sustained attack overnight, with 24 drones striking 15 locations. In Moscow, President Vladimir Putin used his New Year address to strike a defiant tone, calling for victory in the year ahead.
I congratulate all our fighters and commanders on the coming new year. We believe in you and in our victory.
Meanwhile, Russian officials today claimed a Ukrainian drone killed 24 people in the Russian-occupied region of Kherson. Despite claims of aggression on both sides, President Volodymyr Zelensky says peace negotiations are close to completion.
The peace agreement is 90% ready. 10% remains, and that is far more than just numbers. 10% to save millions of lives.
That remaining 10% centres on how far Ukraine is prepared to go, on concessions pushed by President Trump, including giving up the Donbas region to Russia. The coming days could prove decisive, determining whether the year ahead brings more bloodshed or an end to conflict. Sharon Preet-Kara, ITV News.
The US military says it struck 5 boats it claims were carrying drugs, killing 8 people in the latest operations targeting suspected narcotics smuggling routes. The exact location of the strikes was not revealed, though previous operations ordered by President Trump have occurred in the Caribbean Sea and the eastern Pacific Ocean. More than 110 people have been killed since September. Meanwhile, President Trump said he's withdrawing National Guard troops from several US cities, including Chicago and Los Angeles, after a Supreme Court ruling found he lacked the authority to deploy them for domestic law enforcement. The decision follows legal challenges from Democrat-led states and cities. And in Iran, at least 6 people have been killed in a 5th day of protests over the country's struggling economy. The state news agency reported that some of the demonstrators had weapons and that one of those killed was a member of the security forces. Israel's ban on 37 international aid agencies operating in Gaza has technically come into effect today, but there have been no reports yet of any agency being forcibly removed from the territory. What is clear is that medical supplies remain in critically short supply due to continuing Israeli limits on aid. One example, thousands of amputees are in need of prosthetic limbs when few are available. Ian Woods reports.
Any long journey begins with a single step, and this is Mohammed's. He's unsteady. The prosthetic limb which replaces his lower left leg doesn't yet feel like a natural extension of his body. It's barely 4 months since he was badly injured in an Israeli bombing.
بقت بعد الأقصى القوات رمت علينا قنابل والصوابت وفي 4 استشهدوا وبعدين ودونا على المستشفى وبتروا رجلي انقطع.
Since then, he's been trying to get around using crutches. Not easy when he and his family are constantly on the move. They've had to relocate 15 times during the 2-year war and are living under tarpaulin.
لا لما يعني أمشي في عكاكي زقع على السحلق على المجارة مية على الأرض يعني الطرف بسهل علي.
In Gaza, where many hospitals and clinics have been destroyed, there's a desperate shortage of medical supplies. This centre, run by the charity Humanity and Inclusion, can deal with 100 patients, but it's estimated that 6,000 Palestinians need prosthetic limbs, given the number of seriously injured in the war.
أول مرة تجربه؟
أول مرة.
إيش حاسس إنك؟
يعني أحسن.
إيش حاسس؟ ليش أحسن؟
هاي بدي أركب له طرف وأمشي فيه.
Rehabilitation can be a slow process, but young Mohammed can take some encouragement from Walid, who was badly injured in a bombing 2 years ago.
فبعرف شو بعد 4 أيام تم بتر رجلي لأنه ما فيش أمل خلاص فتم بتر رجلي في 29/12/2023 ولحد اليوم أين عايشين والحمد لله.
A temporary prosthetic has now been replaced with a better one.
لو أنا بطلع بروح الحين بمشي بعيد يعني لو بدي بمشي مسافة يعني 2 كيلو أما قبل ما كنتش أمشي يعني بس جنب الخيمة.
Like many of his fellow Gazans, Mohammed is now taking his first faltering steps to recovery. Ian Woods, ITV News.
To sport now, and on the first night of the new year, Chelsea are looking for a new coach. Enzo Maresca has been sacked after a series of off-field disputes with the club's hierarchy. Despite winning both the UEFA Conference League and World Club Cup in 2025, Maresca leaves after a run of only 1 win in the last 7 Premier League matches. In the Premier League tonight, it's been a frustrating evening for title hopefuls Manchester City. They dropped 2 points after being held to a goalless draw by Sunderland at the Stadium of Light. Here's Chris Scudder.
Sunderland till they die, and a poignant start to the new year as the club remembered fans and former players who had passed in 2025. On the field, this was their biggest test, trying to stop a City team who had won 8 games in a row. Beyond expectation, Sunderland had yet to lose at home, and Brian Brobby so nearly defied the odds even further. Odds that would also be short for Erling Haaland to score, but for once he could not finish. Then it was a tale of the 2 goalkeepers. Donnarumma would not be beaten for City, but at the other end, the Scudder, ITV News.
And that is it. The weather forecast is next. But from all of us here on the Weekend News team, thanks for watching and good night.